Welcome, curious souls. To Grey Vale echoes your portal to the world's most chilling mysteries and untold stories. Join us as we uncover the strange, the supernatural, and the truly unexplained. In the quiet corners of forgotten archives, discrepancies lurk, records conflict. What if the past we remember, the very fabric of our shared history, is not as solid as it seems? A disturbing possibility emerges. The past we recall, the events we've lived through, the popular culture that shaped us, these things form the bedrock of our understanding. Yet, for an unnerving number of people, that bedrock feels like it's shifting. There's a quiet dread that settles in when deeply held. Vivid memories collide head-on with undeniable reality. This isn't just about forgetting a detail or misremembering a date. It's about entire swaths of shared memory proving to be fundamentally, disturbingly false. We are talking about the echoes of erasure, a collection of collective misrememberings so stark and unsettling. They force a reevaluation of what we truly know. Consider the landscape of iconic cinema, particularly moments that have burned themselves into the collective consciousness. For millions across the globe, the climactic reveal in Star Wars, Episode 5 The Empire Strikes Back is etched with absolute clarity. The scene unfolds. A chilling confession from Darth Vader to Luke Skywalker. Everyone knows the line. Everyone remembers it. It's one of the most quoted, most parroted, most universally recognized movie quotes of all time. Luke, I am your father. The weight of those words, the dramatic pause, the gasp from the audience, it's also undeniably real in the minds of countless fans. The conviction is absolute. People can hear Mark Hamill's voice, see the helmeted villain, feel the emotional impact. But here is where the unsettling truth begins to surface. When you revisit the scene, when you listen to the actual dialogue, the words are different. They are subtly, yet critically, altered. Darth Vader does not say, Luke, I am your father. He says, no, I am your father. This isn't a minor grammatical point. It changes the entire setup of the conversation. The no directly responds to Luke's earlier statement. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. Vader's reply, no, I am your father, is a direct contradiction to Luke's claim. The remembered line, Luke, I am your father, transforms the moment into a direct, unprovoked confession, lacking the initial setup. This discrepancy isn't just for a few isolated individuals. It impacts a vast, global audience. People who grew up with Star Wars, who have watched it dozens of times, who can recite entire scenes, will vehemently defend their memory of the Luke version. The shock and confusion when confronted with the actual footage can be profound. It's more than just a simple mistake. It's a deeply ingrained false memory that overrides objective evidence. The certainty, the vividness of the incorrect memory, clashes violently with the unalterable reality of the film itself. This kind of experience leaves many feeling a deep sense of unease, a disturbing crack in the foundation of their own recollections. It begs the question, if something as iconic and frequently consumed as this can be misremembered by so many, what else could be subtly different from what we hold to be true? The fact that a movie quote, a piece of popular culture so widely accessible and repeatedly viewed, can become a point of such collective misremembering is truly baffling. It's as if a switch was flipped somewhere. altering not the past event itself, but our shared mental recording of it. The sheer number of people affected by this single, unsettling detail highlights how fragile our collective memory can be, or perhaps, how easily it can be swayed by forces unknown. Beyond the silver screen, the creeping sensation of altered reality seeps into the very fabric of our childhood. For generations, one particular family of bears taught lessons and delighted young readers. The Berenstain Bears, a beloved series of children's books, instantly recognizable, a comforting presence on countless bookshelves. Yet, for countless individuals, there's a different name, a different spelling that sits firmly in their minds. The Berenstain Bears. The E is clear, distinct, and absolutely correct in their memory. They recall seeing it on book covers, hearing it spoken, internalizing it as a fundamental part of their youth. The conviction is so strong, so deeply rooted. It feels like an undeniable truth. This isn't a vague recollection. It's a specific, concrete detail from formative years. The unsettling part, of course, is that this memory is demonstrably false. The actual, official spelling of the beloved bear family has always been and continues to be Berenstain, with an A for the second syllable. All physical evidence, every book, every animated episode, every piece of merchandise confirms the A. There is no record, no historical proof of the Berenstain spelling ever existing. Yet, the belief persists. Millions remember it differently, with a certainty that borders on the visceral. They might even feel a surge of anger or frustration when told they are wrong, because their memory is so incredibly vivid, so personal, so deeply entwined with their own past. This deep-seated conviction clashes head-on with all physical evidence. The Berenstain Bears phenomenon is particularly jarring because it challenges the sanctity of childhood memories. These aren't recent events. They are recollections from a time when the world was being understood, when basic facts were being absorbed. To have such a foundational memory proven incorrect by undeniable physical proof creates a profound sense of betrayal. It's not just a trivial error. It feels like a subtle manipulation of one's own history, a questioning of the very reliability of their personal narrative. The discomfort is real. People feel gaslit by reality itself, wondering if their minds are playing tricks on them, or if something more profound is at play. The widespread nature of this particular misremembering, affecting individuals who have no connection other than their shared past, is a deeply unsettling mystery. It's as if an unseen editor has gone through the archives of our collective minds, making a small, yet significant, alteration that only a portion of the population has noticed. The simple switch of a single letter exposes a gaping chasm between what we believe we know and what objectively exists, leaving a lingering sense of unease about the true nature of our past. The anomalies don't stop with movie lines or beloved children's books. They extend to the very brands that populate our everyday lives. The logos we see countless times without a second thought. Take, for example, the iconic fruit of the Loom brand. For decades, their logo has adorned underwear, t-shirts, and socks, a familiar sight in homes around the world. The logo itself depicts a vibrant collection of fruit, grapes, apples, and leaves, arranged in a visually appealing cluster. Simple, recognizable, and seemingly unchanging. But for a vast number of people, Something is missing from that image. Something that was once undeniably there. That missing element. Cornucopia. A horn of plenty. Overflowing with the fruit. Forming the backdrop or base of the entire logo. Many people can describe it in detail. Its wicker texture. Its curved shape. The way the fruit spills out of it. They remember seeing it clearly. Countless times. On packaging. On labels. Ingrained in their visual memory. The image of the cornucopia in the fruit of the Loom logo is as vivid and concrete for these individuals as the fruit itself. It's not a vague, fleeting impression. It's a distinct visual component that they are absolutely certain existed. They've seen it on laundry day, while shopping. In advertisements, it was simply there. Yet, the stark, unsettling truth is this. The fruit of the Loom logo has never featured a cornucopia. Not in its current iteration. Not in its various historical forms. Not ever. A thorough examination of the company's branding history, its archives, its official records, reveals no trace of a cornucopia. The fruit has always stood alone, directly on a white background, or sometimes with just a few leaves. This undeniable fact clashes dramatically with the vivid, persistent memory shared by millions. How could such a universally recognized brand, a logo seen by countless eyes over decades, be subject to such a profound and widespread visual hallucination? The disbelief when confronted with this reality can be profound. People will scour the internet, convinced that they will find proof of the cornucopia's existence, only to be met with endless images of the logo as it truly is sans cornucopia. This creates a deeply unsettling cognitive dissonance. The memory is so strong, so visually rich, that its non-existence feels like a trick, a cruel joke played by reality itself. It challenges not only one's visual memory but also the very concept of shared visual truth. If a logo we see daily, almost unconsciously, can be subject to such a pervasive false memory, what else in our visually saturated world might be subtly, yet significantly, different from what we perceive? The fruit of the Loom cornucopia is a chilling example of how our shared visual landscape can be silently altered, leaving a void where something distinct and memorable once stood, at least in the collective mind. Is a testament to how fragile our perceptions are, and how easily a seemingly unshakable visual fact can be undermined, leaving behind a haunting sense of uncertainty about the very things we see with our own eyes. These echoes of erasure, from film to childhood stories to everyday branding, demonstrate a consistent and unnerving pattern, a collective inability to agree on verifiable facts, a shared experience of a past that never truly existed. It leaves a lingering chill, a suspicion that the solid ground of our memories might be far more porous than we ever dared to imagine. The world we inhabit, the very ground beneath our feet, is meant to be constant. Maps, atlases, globes, they promise a fixed reality, an unyielding geography. Yet, for an unnerving number of people, that foundational stability feels like it has been subtly, insidiously undermined. There's a persistent, chilling sensation that the land itself, the arrangement of continents and islands, has shifted. These are not vague uncertainties. These are direct clashes between vivid personal recollections and the undeniable facts displayed on any modern map. We are delving into historical whispers, moments when the past, specifically our geographical past, seems to shift beneath us, leaving a trail of profound disorientation. Take, for instance, the island nation of New Zealand, a beautiful, distinct country, rich in culture and breathtaking landscapes. For many, the mental image of New Zealand's location is clear. It sits off the coast of Australia, perhaps a little to the north, or certainly quite close. It's part of that general Oceania cluster, a companion to its larger neighbor. People recall seeing it there on school maps, on television, in atlases. The memory is firm, a geographical anchor point in their minds. But then, they look at a modern, accurate map. The shock can be visceral. New Zealand is often depicted much further south, and significantly more isolated from Australia than many remember. Feels like it has moved, drifting into a more remote corner of the Pacific, leaving behind a profound sense of dislocation for those who vividly recall its previous perceived position. This isn't just about slight inaccuracies. It's about a feeling that a fundamental piece of the world's arrangement has been subtly rearranged. People can point to where they remember it being, sometimes even outlining the perceived shift with their hands. They might remember it being more on a horizontal plane with Australia, or closer to the equator. The actual location, however, often appears much lower on the globe, pushing the boundaries of what they thought they knew about global geography. This unsettling sensation extends beyond New Zealand. Some report Japan appearing smaller than they recall, or its chain of islands being oriented differently. Others remember specific smaller islands, now absent from maps or located in entirely different seas, as clear landmarks from their past studies or casual observations. The globe itself, a symbol of immutable reality, appears different to some, creating a constant, low thrum of unease whenever they glance at a world map. It's as if a silent, unseen hand has redrawn the boundaries, shifted the landmasses, and only a portion of humanity has registered the change. The very act of trusting a map, a tool designed for absolute certainty, becomes fraught with a strange, quiet dread. How can we navigate a world if its most basic features are not fixed in our collective memory? This geographical displacement, this feeling that the very ground of our planet has subtly rearranged itself, forces a chilling question. If the physical world can feel so fluid, what else around us might be less stable than we believe? It leaves us with a lingering, unsettling question about the true permanence of our perceived reality. Beyond the shifting continents, the subtle currents of change ripple through the very fabric of our documented history, redefining moments we thought were set in stone. We rely on photographs, official records, and eyewitness accounts to solidify our understanding of the past. These artifacts are meant to be immutable, concrete evidence of what transpired. Yet, for many, even the most iconic historical images and well-known events hold details that, when re-examined, clash violently with their crystal-clear memories. This creates a profound sense of unease, a feeling that historical moments themselves are subtly, yet disturbingly, being rewritten in our minds. Consider some of the most famous photographs that encapsulate pivotal moments in human history. The Tank Man in Tiananmen Square, standing defiantly against a column of tanks, an image of profound courage. Many remember the tank being closer, the scene more claustrophobic, or even the man eventually being run over. The specifics of iconic historical photos, Moments that have been seared into the global consciousness often appear subtly off. Or think of the classic VJ Day in Times Square kiss photo, where a sailor embraces a nurse at the end of World War II. People remember the nurse clearly in her white uniform, perhaps with a distinct hat. Yet, upon closer inspection, details about the sailor's posture, the specific angle of the kiss, or even the background crowds can trigger a jarring sensation of difference for those who recall it with absolute certainty. The uniform of the nurse, the precise way the sailor holds her, these specific details, once locked in memory, can suddenly appear altered when confronted with the actual image. It's not just photographs. The precise details of well-known historical events, discussed and recounted countless times, can also feel redefined. The assassination of John F. Kennedy, for instance, is an event etched into the minds of generations. Many people have distinct memories about the number of people in the car, the exact sequence of events, or even the immediate aftermath. Yet, when historical documentaries or reenactments present slightly different angles, or when new evidence is discussed, a profound sense of cognitive dissonance can emerge. Collective memories clash with documented reality, creating a persistent sense of unease. For instance, the number of people in the presidential limousine. Many recall it being a standard four-person vehicle, perhaps with the Kennedys and a driver. The reality of a six-seater car, with Governor John Connally and his wife, often comes as a surprise, challenging a deeply held visual memory of that tragic moment. The details, even seemingly minor ones, can profoundly impact the emotional resonance and perceived truth of the event. This redefinition of moments, this subtle shifting of historical specifics, is more than mere forgetfulness. It's about a deeply ingrained, collective false memory that stands in direct opposition to verifiable facts. It suggests a disturbing malleability in our understanding of the past, a vulnerability to alterations that we can barely comprehend. The unsettling part is not just that we misremember, but that so many misremember in the exact same way. This collective distortion creates a pervasive sense of historical insecurity. If our shared understanding of pivotal events, documented by cameras and countless witnesses, can be so easily warped, what does that say about the reliability of history itself? It's a chilling thought that the very narrative of our world, the moments that shaped us, could be less fixed, less solid, than the history books proclaim. This silent, insidious rewriting of historical detail leaves us with a haunting question about the true nature of our collective past and the integrity of the historical record itself. Perhaps the most profoundly unsettling form of historical whisper comes when the very lives and deaths of public figures become entangled in this web of altered memory. The idea that you could vividly remember a celebrity's passing, their funeral, the news reports, the outpouring of grief only to discover they are, in fact, still very much alive, is a jarring, almost terrifying experience. It's a direct assault on the integrity of your personal timeline, a deeply intimate betrayal of what you believe to be true about the world and the people in it. The shock and confusion that follow such a revelation can be immense, leaving a lasting feeling of disorientation and a chilling doubt about the reliability of your own mind. Consider the case of Sinbad, the comedian. For a significant portion of the population, a very specific memory exists, Sinbad starring in a 1990s movie where he played a genie. They remember the title, Shazam, or something very similar. They recall seeing the VHS cover, the movie posters, perhaps even watching parts of the film. The plot details are clear. Sinbad as a bumbling, well-meaning genie, granting wishes, getting into comedic scrapes. For many, this memory is as real as any other movie they watched in their youth. They can describe the costume, the setting, the overall tone of the film with absolute conviction. The certainty of this memory is absolute. It's a piece of childhood pop culture that feels as tangible as any other. The chilling reality, however, is that Shazam featuring Sinbad simply never existed. No such movie was ever made. Sinbad himself has publicly addressed this phenomenon, confirming that he never starred in a genie movie. There was a movie called Kazam starring Shaquille O'Neal as a genie, which came out around the same time. But for those who remember Shazam with Sinbad, the two are distinct and separate memories. This direct contradiction creates a profound sense of cognitive dissonance. How can millions of people share such a specific, detailed memory of a film that has no historical record, no physical proof of its existence? The memory isn't vague. It's rich with detail, yet demonstrably false. This kind of phenomenon becomes even more terrifying when it involves a celebrity's perceived death. Imagine vividly recalling the news of a famous musician, actor, or public figure's demise. You remember the date, the cause, the tributes, the collective mourning. Perhaps you even felt a personal pang of sadness, watched a memorial special, or heard their songs played in remembrance. Your memory of their passing is clear, precise, and emotionally charged. Then, one day, you stumble upon an article, a social media post, or even see them on television, and the undeniable truth hits you. They are, in fact, still alive. The memory of their demise, so solid and real, is revealed to be utterly, disturbingly false. This creates an almost existential horror. Your personal timeline, your experience of recent history, has been fundamentally contradicted. It's not just a misremembered movie. It's a life event, a moment of grief or significant news that simply never happened in objective reality. The mind struggles to reconcile such a powerful, personal memory with the irrefutable evidence that contradicts it. It leaves a haunting question. If our minds can invent an entire celebrity death, complete with news reports and public reactions, what else about our personal pasts might be a complete fabrication? This phenomenon, where the fates of well-known individuals are altered in collective memory, serves as a chilling reminder of how fragile our perception of history truly is, and how easily our personal timelines can be fractured by these unsettling, whispered changes in the past. It suggests a reality far more pliable and far less predictable than we are equipped to handle, leaving us with a lingering, visceral fear of the unknown forces that might be at play, when the very bedrock of shared experience seems to fracture, revealing cracks in the foundation of collective memory. The unsettling question arises: what force could be at play? Is this a trick of the mind, a silent corruption of information, or something far more profound, hinting at an instability within reality itself? We are compelled to explore the unseen hand behind these discrepancies, the theories that attempt to reconcile our vivid, yet demonstrably false, recollections with the objective world. The search for answers leads us down paths both psychological and existential, each offering a chilling perspective on the nature of what we perceive as truth. One of the most immediate and, for many, most comforting explanations for the Mandela effect lies within the intricate, yet surprisingly fragile, workings of the human mind. This theory posits that what we are experiencing is a form of collective confabulation, a widespread, shared instance of our brains filling in gaps or creating narratives that feel real but are, in fact, entirely fabricated. It's a disturbing look into the inherent susceptibility of memory, highlighting how easily it can be swayed by suggestion and the insidious spread of misinformation. Our minds, turns out, are far less reliable archives than we often assume. And this vulnerability is amplified when individuals come together, creating a powerful, self-reinforcing echo chamber of perceived truth. At an individual level, confabulation is a recognized psychological phenomenon. When our brains encounter a gap in memory, they don't simply leave it blank. Instead, they often unconsciously construct a plausible, yet entirely false, detail or sequence of events to fill that void. The person genuinely believes this constructed memory to be accurate, often with a high degree of conviction, even when faced with contradictory evidence. It's not an intentional lie. It's a failure of memory retrieval, subtly masked by an inventive mental process. Now, extend this concept to a collective scale. Imagine a seemingly innocuous misremembering, perhaps sparked by a joke or a slight misquote heard in passing. Someone mentions the Berenstain Bears, confidently adding the E where an A should be. If this initial error is then repeated, perhaps by a parent or a peer, plants a seed. Others, hearing this, might then genuinely recall the same spelling, unconsciously aligning their own vague memories with the presented incorrect information. The human brain, ever seeking patterns and consensus, is remarkably prone to this kind of subtle suggestion. Social influence plays a profound role in this process. We are social creatures, and our understanding of the world is often shaped by the shared perceptions of our community. If a significant number of people begin to confidently assert a particular false memory, others who might have been unsure or had a different recollection can be swayed. This isn't necessarily about overt pressure. It's a more insidious, unconscious alignment. The sheer weight of numbers, the apparent certainty of others, can overwrite individual uncertainty, leading to a new, shared truth. Confirmation bias then solidifies these false memories. Once a person has accepted a new, albeit incorrect, memory, their brain begins to actively seek out and interpret information in a way that confirms it, while simultaneously dismissing or rationalizing away any evidence that contradicts it. They might unconsciously remember other people also saying, "Luke, I am your father," even if those instances never occurred. They might selectively focus on any ambiguity that supports their altered memory, reinforcing its legitimacy. Furthermore, the phenomenon of source amnesia complicates matters. Individuals remember the cornucopia on the fruit of the Loom logo, the in Berenstain, but they completely forget where they learned it. This lack of a clear source lends the memory a false sense of originality and personal certainty. It feels like something they always knew, something they personally observed, rather than something they might have subconsciously absorbed from a social interaction or a fleeting piece of misinformation. The feeling of knowing, That deep-seated conviction that accompanies these false memories often far outweighs any actual, verifiable recall. People will argue vehemently for the authenticity of their Shazam movie memory, not because they've meticulously rewatched it, but because the feeling of having watched it is so incredibly strong. This psychological lens offers a disturbing glimpse into the fragility of memory, painting a picture of a mental landscape that is far less secure than we assume. Our minds, these intricate supercomputers, are not infallible recording devices. They are interpretive, reconstructive, and highly susceptible to external and internal pressures. If entire populations can collectively misremember iconic movie quotes, fundamental brand logos, or the spelling of beloved childhood characters through mere suggestion and cognitive biases, then the very concept of objective, shared truth becomes tenuous. It implies a chilling vulnerability, a silent, internal corruption where our own minds, in their effort to make sense of the world, can inadvertently fabricate an alternate reality within our consciousness. The initial comfort of a psychological explanation quickly dissolves into a profound sense of unease. Realizing that the most powerful tool we possess, our memory, might be actively deceiving us, and doing so on a grand, collective scale, shifting from the internal landscapes of the mind to the external, interconnected web of information. Another chilling theory emerges: digital contamination. This perspective suggests that the widespread nature of certain Mandela effects isn't solely a product of individual cognitive biases, but a consequence of the early, unregulated chaos of the Internet. It paints a picture of a silent corruption of shared knowledge, where initial inaccuracies, once posted online, metastasize and solidify into widely accepted facts, ultimately overwriting genuine memories and warping our collective understanding of reality. In its nascent stages, the Internet was a wild frontier, a largely ungoverned space where information flowed freely, unburdened by the editorial oversight or rigorous fact-checking mechanisms that characterize traditional media. Forum boards, early websites, and unverified fan pages became fertile ground for misremembered details to take root. A single incorrect post about a movie quote, a celebrity's death, or a brand logo, perhaps made by someone genuinely mistaken, could gain traction, unlike a misprint in a book, which would be corrected in subsequent editions. An online error could persist indefinitely, copied and pasted, screenshotted, and shared without critical scrutiny. This environment was ripe for the unintentional spread of misinformation, turning isolated errors into pervasive truths. The impact of this digital contamination lies in its viral nature. Once an inaccuracy is introduced and gains even a small amount of visibility, it can spread rapidly through information cascades. People copy and paste, share links, and engage in discussions, lending the false information a deceptive aura of legitimacy through sheer repetition. An individual might encounter the incorrect spelling of the Berenstain Bears on a forum, then see it referenced on another blog, and then perhaps hear it mentioned in an online video. Each exposure reinforces the false fact, slowly eroding any genuine memory they might have had. The sheer volume of digital noise can drown out the truth, making it increasingly difficult for individuals to discern what is real and what is a pervasive digital phantom. The Internet's architecture also fostered the creation of echo chambers, online communities, often centered around shared interests like movies, history, or childhood nostalgia, would unintentionally reinforce each other's false memories. If a group of people collectively believed the fruit of the Loom logo had a cornucopia, their discussions within their online space would further solidify this belief. Any dissenting voice, if present, might be dismissed or simply lost in the overwhelming tide of collective agreement. This lack of diverse perspectives and critical challenge allowed misinformation to become deeply entrenched, creating self-reinforcing narratives that were difficult, if not impossible, to dislodge. These digital echo chambers, instead of promoting critical thought, became incubators for shared delusions, elevating anecdotal evidence and collective misremembering to the status of irrefutable fact. Furthermore, the enduring nature of digital artifacts plays a crucial role. Old forum posts, archived web pages, and even poorly edited early online encyclopedias can persist for years, sometimes even decades. A casual search on a search engine might surface these old, incorrect pieces of information, giving them renewed life and lending them a false sense of authority simply because they appear in search results. Google's algorithms, designed to prioritize popular or frequently linked content, can inadvertently solidify incorrect information by pushing it higher up the results page, further obscuring accurate sources. This means that even if the original source of the error is no longer active, its digital ghost continues to haunt the information landscape, perpetually contaminating the well of shared knowledge. The chilling implication of digital contamination is that the digital realm has subtly poisoned our collective well of truth. It suggests that our shared understanding of the past, our cultural touchstones, and even basic facts have been quietly and insidiously corrupted, not by a grand conspiracy, but by the very mechanisms of information dissemination in the modern age. It's a silent erosion, where the lines between objective reality and digitally propagated falsehoods become terrifyingly blurred. This phenomenon paints a picture of a world where the vast, interconnected network we built to share knowledge has, in an unforeseen twist, become a potent engine for generating and entrenching shared false memories. It leaves us with a profound sense of vulnerability, a nagging question about the unseen, digital forces that might be shaping not just what we know, but what we think we remember, leaving us adrift in a sea of digitally manufactured uncertainty. But what if these shared false memories aren't simply errors of the mind, nor artifacts of digital noise? What if they are something far more profound? Something that challenges the very stability of existence itself. This leads us to the most unnerving theories, those that posit glitches in the matrix, suggesting that reality itself is not as fixed or as singular as we believe. These are not mere psychological quirks. They are disturbing hints that we might be experiencing temporal shifts, accidental bleed-throughs from alternate timelines, or even subtle programming errors within a vast, simulated existence. The implications are truly chilling, transforming the Mandela effect from a curiosity into a potential existential crisis. One terrifying proposition is that the past is not immutable, but rather subject to subtle, localized temporal shifts. Imagine time not as a rigid, unbending line, but as a fluid, occasionally wavering stream. If such shifts were to occur, even on a microscopic level, they could subtly rewrite elements of our history. A movie quote might be rephrased, a brand logo subtly altered, a geographical location nudged by a few degrees. For those who were present in the original, unaltered timeline, These changes would register as distinct, jarring discrepancies, a personal memory clashing with a newly established reality. The memory isn't wrong. It's a vestige of a previous version of reality, a haunting echo of what was. This theory suggests that the universe is constantly editing itself, perhaps correcting errors, or undergoing subtle, unexplainable transformations, and we, with our persistent memories, are merely catching glimpses of these cosmic edits. The ground beneath our perceived reality becomes terrifyingly insecure, always prone to a silent, unseen rewrite. Even more unsettling is the idea of alternate timelines or parallel universes. Quantum mechanics, with its many worlds interpretation, posits the existence of an infinite number of universes, each representing a different outcome of every decision and every random event. In this vast cosmic tapestry, countless versions of our reality exist side by side, each with minute or even significant differences. What if the Mandela effect is evidence of brief, perhaps accidental, jumps or bleeds between these realities, perhaps for a fleeting moment? A sliver of our consciousness experiences an event from a subtly different timeline, one where Berenstain was indeed Berenstein, or where the fruit of the Loom logo actually featured a cornucopia. Upon returning to our home timeline, the memory persists, creating the unsettling sensation of a reality that has diverged from our personal recollection. It implies that our entire life could be happening in one of many realities, and that we occasionally, and perhaps unknowingly, catch glimpses of others. This blurs the lines of individual identity and objective truth, suggesting that the very essence of our experience might be a composite of multiple, subtly different existences. The thought that our reality isn't singular, but a constantly shifting, permeable boundary between countless others, is deeply disorienting and fundamentally challenges our understanding of self and universe. The most extreme and perhaps most profoundly disturbing theory is that our entire reality is a sophisticated computer simulation. This simulation theory suggests that everything we perceive, every memory we hold, every interaction we have, is nothing more than incredibly advanced code, running on some colossal, unknowable supercomputer. In this context, the Mandela effect becomes a direct manifestation of glitches in the matrix, programming errors, patches, or updates to the simulation that subtly alter past data or introduce inconsistencies. A programmer might subtly change a movie script, update a brand logo in the universal database, or even alter the geographical location of an island. And those within the simulation who possess particularly strong old data memories would register the discrepancy. The implications of such a reality are horrifying. If our world is a simulation, then who are the programmers? What is their purpose? Are these glitches accidental? Or are they deliberate manipula? The echoes of erasure, the whispered historical shifts, and the unsettling theories of a pliable reality all converge on one profound and inescapable question. Is our reality truly our own? The journey through misremembered movie lines, altered childhood memories, and geographical puzzles leaves a chilling impression. It forces us to confront the possibility that the world around us, and our place within it, is far less stable and far more mysterious than we have ever dared to imagine. This isn't just about curious anomalies. It's about a looming shadow that stretches across our collective consciousness. A silent, persistent challenge to the very essence of what we perceive as truth. Initially, The Mandela effect was often dismissed as quirky instances of collective misremembering, anecdotal curiosities that could be explained away by psychology or simple human error. But as time progresses, a disturbing pattern has begun to emerge, one that suggests a far more unsettling truth. There's a growing, pervasive feeling that the veil between what is fixed and what is mutable is becoming increasingly thin. What once felt like isolated, infrequent incidents now appear to be multiplying, subtly, insidiously, across all facets of our shared experience. More and more people are reporting more and more instances of the Mandela effect, creating a collective sense of profound unease. It started with a few widely recognized examples, the precise wording of a famous quote, the spelling of a beloved book series. These were startling enough, prompting deep introspection for those who encountered them. But now, the reports seem to be accelerating. People are noticing subtle changes in historical photographs, discrepancies in scientific facts they once learned with certainty, and even minor alterations in well-known song lyrics that were once etched into their memory. It's as if a dam, once holding back a flood of inconsistencies, has begun to crack, allowing a steady trickle, then a growing stream, of unsettling alterations to seep into our perceived reality. The feeling is not just one of discovery, but of an active, ongoing process, a continuous erosion of what we once considered immutable. This acceleration in reported occurrences hints at a reality that is becoming more pliable, less fixed than we previously understood. The boundaries of what is real and what is merely remembered differently seem to be blurring at an alarming rate. It's not just specific examples that are increasing. It's the sheer variety of examples. From the minute details of everyday objects to the foundational elements of history and geography. Nothing seems entirely safe from these subtle, spectral shifts. The once solid ground of our shared past feels like it's turning to quicksand, slowly but surely pulling down established facts and replacing them with versions that, while objectively verifiable now, clash violently with a significant portion of collective memory. This thinning veil creates an overarching atmosphere of anxiety, the comfort of knowing that the past is a static entity, that history is written and done, is gradually being stripped away. Instead, we are left with a gnawing suspicion that the very fabric of our existence is in a state of flux, constantly being edited or reshaped by forces unknown. Each new instance of the Mandela effect, each additional shared false memory, contributes to this growing sense of instability. It's no longer just a phenomenon to observe. It's a chilling, lived experience for many, a perpetual questioning of their own sanity and the integrity of the world around them. The erosion of these boundaries, the increasing bleed-throughs of what might have been, leaves us with a lingering, visceral dread, a quiet horror that the reality we call home is not as secure, or as singular, as we once believed. This continuous unveiling of discrepancies makes us wonder if our sense of stability is merely an illusion, soon to shatter completely, if reality itself is proving to be so malleable, so prone to these unexplained shifts. A truly unsettling question arises. What if we are, in some profound way, involved? This brings us to the observer's paradox, a concept hinting at the unsettling power our minds might possess, or indeed, be subjected to. It raises the possibility that our collective consciousness isn't merely a passive recipient of reality, but an active, if unwitting, participant in its very shaping? Could the sheer weight of shared human thought, belief, or even widespread misinformation somehow exert a subtle, undetectable force on the fabric of existence itself? The idea that observation can influence reality has roots in quantum physics, where the act of observing a particle can seemingly alter its behavior. While this concept is typically applied to the subatomic world, the Mandela effect pushes us to consider its implications on a macroscopic, collective scale. What if our collective attention, our shared memory, or even our widespread misremembering isn't just a reflection of reality, but a subtle agent of change? If enough people vividly remember something a certain way, even if it contradicts objective evidence, could that collective mental energy somehow ripple through the universe, subtly altering the past or shifting the present to align with the dominant, albeit false, memory? This notion imbues the human mind with an unsettling, almost terrifying power. It suggests that our thoughts, our beliefs, and even our errors are not confined to the individual skull, but possess a latent capacity to sculpt the world around us. What if the false memories aren't false because we are wrong, but because our collective belief, at some critical juncture, somehow made them so? Perhaps the cornucopia on the fruit of the loom logo did exist in a reality that was then overwritten by a collective consensus that it didn't. Or vice versa. The disturbing implication is that we are not simply witnessing changes in reality. We might be, unconsciously, causing them. This isn't about simply remembering differently. It's about active participation in reality's construction, whether we realize it or not. The terrifying aspect of this observer's paradox, at play in the Mandela effect, is the question of control. If our minds possess this world-shaping power, are we consciously wielding it? Or is it an uncontrolled, subconscious force, bubbling up from the collective unconscious? The thought that our deepest fears, our anxieties, or even our shared cultural narratives could inadvertently ripple through the fabric of existence, causing these unexplained shifts, is deeply unsettling. It implies a kind of collective somnambulism, where humanity sleepwalks through its own history, inadvertently editing its past and present through the sheer, unbridled power of its shared consciousness. The lack of conscious control over such a profound ability is truly terrifying. We might be creating the very anomalies that haunt us, without any understanding of how to stop or direct this immense, hidden force. This perspective means that our subjective experience isn't merely a reflection of an external, objective world, but an active ingredient in its very composition. The boundaries between internal thought and external reality become terrifyingly porous. We are left to wonder if we are being subjected to this power, a silent, unconscious force that influences us without our knowledge, or if we are its unwitting agents, constantly reshaping the world through the sheer magnitude of our collective thought. The implications are staggering, reducing the concept of objective reality to a consensus hallucination, a shared dream that is constantly being edited by its participants. This blurring of lines, this blurring of observer and observed, leaves us with a profound and persistent sense of dread, wondering what other unseen forces lie dormant within our collective minds, waiting to unleash further, unimaginable alterations upon the world we thought we knew. Ultimately, the cumulative effect of the Mandela effect, with its increasing occurrences and unsettling theories, leads us to a single, Chilling conclusion: our world, our memories, and our history are not immutable. They are not fixed, unchangeable monuments to what has been, but rather subject to unseen forces or shifts, leaving us constantly on edge, perpetually questioning the authenticity of everything we encounter. This is not a mere collection of individual curiosities. It is a systemic challenge to the very notion of a stable, verifiable reality, the comfortable illusion of a solid, unwavering world is shattered. We are left with the profound, unsettling realization that the ground beneath our feet, the shared narrative of our existence, is fundamentally unreliable. The memories we hold, once thought to be personal archives of an objective past, now feel like mere anchors to a previous, perhaps more stable, reality, a reality that has since been subtly, yet profoundly, edited. This constant state of flux creates a pervasive feeling of being off-kilter, a perpetual waiting for the next shift, the next undeniable discrepancy that will further undermine our sense of normalcy. It's a quiet dread that permeates daily life, turning a glance at a brand logo or a casual reference to history into an anxious moment of verification. Who or what is behind these shifts? The unseen forces could be anything from cosmic phenomena beyond our comprehension to the machinations of an advanced simulation, or even the subconscious, uncontrolled power of our own collective minds. The lack of a definitive answer only amplifies the terror. We are left in a state of profound uncertainty, feeling like passive passengers in a reality that is constantly being edited, rewritten, or recalibrated by an unseen hand. This sensation of being at the mercy of unknowable forces is truly terrifying, stripping us of agency and control over the very world we inhabit. The most insidious consequence of this unraveling reality is the erosion of trust in our own senses, trust in our own memories, and ultimately, trust in our shared histories. If the past can be rewritten at any moment, if fundamental facts can simply change, then what is left to ground us? The chilling thought that our only proof that things were different is a personal memory that others dismiss as false creates an isolated, almost maddening experience for those who notice the discrepancies. They are left holding fragments of a lost reality, unable to convince others of what they know to be true. This psychological burden is immense, leading to a profound sense of alienation and a constant, low-level anxiety about the true nature of their existence. This is not a theoretical debate to be discussed in academic circles. It is a lived, terrifying experience for many. It's the unsettling sensation that the world is playing a cruel trick, that the very fabric of existence is engaged in a silent, cosmic deception. The Mandela effect forces a fundamental reevaluation of everything we hold dear and believe to be true. It unravels our understanding of time, memory, consciousness, and ultimately, reality itself. The final, haunting question it leaves us with is not just what is real, but how much of what we accept as real is merely a collective dream, one that could shift and reform at any given moment, leaving us forever adrift in a sea of beautiful, yet terrifying, uncertainty. The lines between what was and what never was continue to blur. A persistent shadow stretches across our collective consciousness. A chilling reminder that the very ground beneath our feet might not be as firm as we believe. Thank you for daring to delve into the unknown with Grave Veil Echoes. If these whispers from the past captivated you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Until next time, keep exploring the shadows.